When you type a question into 챗gpt and get a perfectly written, human-like response in seconds, it really does feel like magic, doesn't it? But what's actually going on under the hood?
Okay, so here's the 20-second version. You give it a prompt, it breaks that prompt down, figures out the context, and then starts predicting a response, one single word at a time. That's the whole process in a nutshell. Now, let's actually unpack what's happening at each one of those steps.
So how does it do all that? Well, it's not magic, but it is fascinating. And believe it or not, the first clue is actually hidden right there in the name itself.
All right, so let's break down what GPT actually means, because each one of those letters tells a really important part of the story here. First up, the G. It stands for generative, and this is absolutely key. It means the model is a creator. It's not just pulling up a file from a database somewhere, it's generating brand new sentences from scratch. It's kind of like how DALL-E makes images. ChatGPT does the same thing, but with language. Okay, so next up is P for pre-trained. And this is the reason it feels like it knows so much about, well, pretty much everything. The model has been fed a colossal amount of text from the internet, books, websites, articles, to learn all the patterns, the grammar, and the facts of our world. And you know, this whole pre-trained thing, it represents a huge shift in how AI learns. The old way, what we call supervised learning, meant that humans had to sit there and label every single piece of data. It was incredibly slow. This new way, unsupervised learning, lets the model learn all by itself, just by looking at the raw data of the internet. It's what allows it to scale to a size that was just unthinkable before.
And that brings us to the T for transformer. And no, we're not talking about giant robots here. It's the name of a revolutionary kind of neural network that was introduced in a famous 2017 paper. And this is the real secret sauce. It's the technology that gives ChatGPT its incredible ability to understand context. Okay, so let's really dig into this transformer breakthrough. Because this thing, it solved a massive problem that older AI models just kept tripping over: how to understand what a sentence really means, especially a long one. So before the transformer, you had these models that read text just like a person does, left to right, one word after another. But the issue was, by the time they got to the end of a long paragraph, they'd kind of forgotten what was said at the beginning. The transformer, though, a total game changer. It looks at every single word in the sentence at the exact same time, letting it see the whole picture at once. Okay, to really see what I mean, let's look at a super simple sentence that would have totally confused an older AI. Now, for you and me, the answer is obvious, right? It's the mouse. But for an AI, how does it figure this out? It needs to understand the relationship between all the words, not just guess. This is where that self-attention mechanism comes in. The transformer looks at the word it and simultaneously analyzes its relationship with every other word. It runs the numbers and says, hey, mouse has a really high importance score here, and cage has a really low one. So boom, it correctly figures out that it is the mouse. Older models would often just link it to the closest noun, cage, which makes no sense at all. Okay, so we have the core tech down, but how do you go from this raw, pre-trained model to the helpful assistant we actually talk to? Well, it's a two-step dance, really. First, you've got that pre-training we talked about, where it just learns to predict the next word. But that just makes it a really good text completion machine. The magic is in the second step, fine-tuning. Specifically, this thing called RLHF, which stands for Reinforcement Learning from Human Feedback. And it's pretty much what it sounds like. Real people have conversations with the AI, and then they rank its answers, basically giving it a thumbs up for good answers and a thumbs down for bad ones, teaching it how to be helpful and safe. But here's the thing. This whole system of just predicting the next word, as powerful as it is, it leads to some really weird problems. In fact, understanding how it works is the key to understanding why it sometimes fails in these bizarre, totally unpredictable ways. And that brings us to a concept you have to know about if you're using these tools: AI hallucinations. This is when the model just makes stuff up. It states something with total confidence as if it's a fact, but it's completely wrong or just pure invention. You know, the science fiction writer Ted Chiang came up with the perfect analogy for this. He called ChatGPT a blurry JPEG of the web. Think about it. A JPEG is a compressed, lossy copy of an image. It tries to recreate the original, but it might mess up the tiny details, right? Well, ChatGPT is doing the same thing with text, and sometimes it fills in those missing details with things that sound plausible but are totally wrong. And listen, this isn't just some academic problem. These hallucinations have had some pretty shocking real-world consequences. I mean, you had a lawyer get in serious trouble for using fake court cases that ChatGPT just invented. a city council in Brazil accidentally passed a law written entirely by the AI. And on a lighter note, it once confidently made up brand new, completely fake lyrics for a classic Alice Cooper song.
So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. ChatGPT does not think or understand the way a human does. It's a phenomenally sophisticated mimic. Some researchers have called it a stochastic parrot, and that's a great way to think about it. Like a parrot that can repeat complex sentences without having any idea what they mean, the AI is just calculating what's the most statistically likely word to come next, based on the trillions of examples it's seen. And that really leaves us with a huge, provocative question, doesn't it? As this technology gets better and better, as the mimicry becomes almost perfect, where do we draw the line between just a sophisticated imitation and something we might actually call intelligence? Thanks for joining us for this explainer.